My sister ridiculed me for marrying a humble farmer while her spouse was a financial expert. When their investments failed, my parents insisted I sell my land to rescue them. Their expressions turned pale when my husband revealed who the true owner of the land was. Hello Reddit, my name is Emily, and I've never been the one to draw attention in my family. Growing up, my sister Claire was always the favored one. She was louder, more driven, and had a charisma that made everyone stop and listen. I, on the other hand, was the shy one, preferring books, long walks in nature, and spending time with animals over socializing with people. Our family lived in the suburbs, and our parents were middle class, working hard to give us everything we needed. Claire always aspired for luxury, obsessed with wealth, status, and marrying into money, which she did. She wed Ethan, a man in finance who claimed to be an investment genius. He drove a Tesla, wore designer suits, and discussed market trends as if he had created Wall Street. My parents practically adored him from the moment he stepped into our home. In contrast, I married Noah, a gentle and kind man who owned a farm on the outskirts of town. He worked the land, grew crops, and raised animals, never boasting about anything. He was the complete opposite of Ethan, which led to my sister constantly teasing me and my parents subtly judging my choice. Claire would mock me at family gatherings, claiming I had lowered my standards by marrying a farmer. She once joked that I probably smelled like manure and that my idea of a vacation was standing in a cornfield. My parents never intervened. At times, they even laughed along, clearly embarrassed that their daughter had wed someone they deemed beneath them. But I never let it bother me because I knew something they didn't. Noah was not just a farmer. He had inherited the land from his grandparents, but instead of treating it like a family relic, he transformed it into a successful agricultural business. He managed hundreds of acres, multiple greenhouses, and had contracts with grocery stores throughout the state. He understood supply and demand better than many in Ethan's field. He just didn't feel the need to show off. We lived simply on purpose, without fancy cars or designer clothes, but we had no debt, healthy savings, and a meaningful, peaceful life. Meanwhile, Claire and Ethan were always flaunting their extravagant vacations on social media, racking up credit card debt, and diving into every trendy investment Ethan could find. NFTs, crypto, AI startups, you name it. He would boast about turning $10,000 into $100,000 in a month, and my parents would beam with pride. Then everything fell apart. One day, I received a frantic call from my mother. Ethan had made a mistake with their investments, and they were in serious trouble. It wasn't just his money at stake. Claire had persuaded our parents to invest their retirement savings with him. $500,000 vanished just like that. They lost everything. Their home was mortgaged, and their savings were wiped out. Claire was hysterical, Ethan remained silent, and my parents were in a full-blown panic. So what did they do? They came to me. They drove 2 hours to our farm uninvited and sat across from me at our simple wooden dining table, looking more humble than I had ever seen them. My mom clutched her purse as if it could vanish, and my dad stared out the window at the fields, trying to process that this land might be their salvation. My sister couldn't even meet my gaze. Her once perfectly manicured nails were chipped, and her designer bag looked worn. Her eyes were red, either from crying or lack of sleep, or both. Then my father spoke. "Emily, sweetheart, we need your help." I stayed quiet, allowing him to continue. "You and Noah have this land, this business. We know it's valuable. We were hoping you could sell some of it, just enough to help us recover. Maybe a few acres? You'd still have plenty." Noah stood by the kitchen counter, arms crossed, listening. My mother added, "Your family, honey. We know it's a big request, but Claire and Ethan are devastated. Your father and I are ruined. We thought maybe you could talk to Noah and convince him to sell." I finally looked at Claire. She couldn't meet my eyes. It was clear she hadn't come out of guilt. She was here because she had nowhere else to turn. I took a deep breath, and then Noah stepped forward. "Actually," he said calmly, "Emily doesn't own the land." My parents blinked in confusion. "What?" my dad asked. "The land doesn't belong to Emily," Noah continued. "It belongs to me. It has for the last 12 years. Everything you see out that window, every square inch, is in my name." You should have seen their faces. It was as if someone had drained the color from their skin. My mother's jaw literally dropped, my father went pale, and Claire looked as if she had been struck. Noah wasn't finished. And even if Emily did own it, you wouldn't get a single acre, not after how you've treated her. The silence was suffocating. My mother tried to say something, but but Noah raised his hand. You looked down on her, mocked her, let your other daughter belittle her for years. Now you want her to sell part of our future, her peace, for people who never respected her. Claire finally snapped. You're seriously going to let us go under because of some pride? I'm your sister. I turned to her. No, Claire, you're someone who laughed when I said I was marrying Noah. You called him dirt beneath your feet. You made me feel ashamed of the best decision I ever made. You all did. And now that you're struggling, you want the lowly farmer to rescue you. She started crying, but I felt nothing. I stood up and walked to the door. I think you should leave. My dad began to speak, but Noah stepped forward again. Emily's being kind. Don't make me be the one to kick you off our property. They left, and I felt like I could finally breathe again. Years of quiet tolerance had led to this moment. Not revenge, not triumph, but clarity. They never recognized my worth until they needed it. Later that evening, Noah and I sat on the porch, watching the sunset. He reached for my hand and squeezed it gently. You okay? He asked. I nodded. For the first time in a long time, I replied, Yeah, I am. But the story wasn't over. Just a few days later, Claire returned. Not with our parents, not with apologies, but with something I never expected that changed everything. 3 days after I turned my family away, Claire showed up again, this time alone. No parents, no husband, no crocodile tears. Just her standing outside our gate with a folder in her hands and a look in her eyes that I hadn't seen since we were kids. One that wasn't filled with arrogance or judgment, but with desperation, pure and raw. I didn't want to let her in, but Noah, ever the calm one, nodded slightly toward the front door and whispered, Let her say her piece. You'll never find peace otherwise. So, I opened the door. She stepped inside and looked around as if she were seeing the house for the first time. Maybe she was. The last time she visited, she barely noticed anything, making snide comments about the wooden furniture and lack of marble countertops. Now, she looked at it all with humble eyes. I'm not here to ask you for money, she said, her voice low and controlled. I'm here to tell you something. She opened the folder and laid it on our dining table. Inside were documents, bank statements, investment records, and a letter, a legal notice. My stomach churned. Ethan forged my signature, she said quietly. He used my name on 6 investment loans. One of them was backed by Mom and Dad's retirement account. He didn't tell me until it was too late. When the investments crashed, the lenders came for me, and now for them. He's gone. Emily vanished, taking what little we had left and disappearing. I stared at the papers, unable to speak. I always knew Ethan was a narcissistic showman, but this was something else. Claire, my once arrogant sister, was now standing in front of me as a woman whose entire life had fallen apart. I know what I did, she continued. I was terrible to you. I mocked you, insulted Noah, treated your life like a joke. And now I'm the joke. Noah stepped forward, arms crossed, skeptical. So what exactly do you want? Claire met his gaze. Nothing. I'm not here to beg. I'm here because I needed to tell someone the truth. Mom and Dad don't know the whole story. I told them Ethan made a bad call. I didn't tell them he committed fraud. I couldn't. They wouldn't survive that. She paused. But you deserve to know. I ruined our relationship. I thought marrying a finance guy made me better. I thought money equaled worth. I was wrong. You two built something real, something solid, and I threw it away for a man who built sandcastles on credit. She turned to me then, her eyes shining. I don't expect forgiveness. I just didn't want to lie anymore. If nothing else, thank you for standing your ground. You taught me something I wish I'd learned years ago. Without waiting for a response, she picked up her folder and turned to leave. That should have been the end, but I couldn't let her go just yet. Claire, I said, my voice catching slightly. Do you have a place to stay? She stopped, her shoulders stiffening. A motel for now. I looked at Noah, and he gave the slightest nod. Stay here, I said. For a few days. We have the guest room and food. You look like you haven't eaten in days. She blinked rapidly, trying to maintain her composure. Are you serious? Don't read too much into it. This isn't forgiveness. This is survival. You're my sister, and no one deserves to go through this alone. So she stayed. At first, it was awkward, silent breakfasts, long evenings where she disappeared into the guest room, too ashamed to make eye contact. But over time, cracks formed in the ice. She helped Noah in the greenhouse, asked questions, learned. One morning, I caught her feeding the goats, laughing softly as one tried to nibble on her jacket. It was a strange sound, familiar yet different, lighter, real. Then she said something I never thought I'd hear. I used to think Noah was beneath me, but he's the kind of man I should have married. Steady, honest, someone who builds, not someone who flashes. I didn't say anything. I didn't have to. That evening, my parents called again, still unaware of Ethan's betrayal, still convinced they were innocent victims of a bad financial storm. "Claire won't return our calls," my mother said, frustration evident. "We're worried. We thought maybe she was still with you." I glanced at Claire, who was sitting on the porch with a mug of coffee, gazing out over the fields. "She's fine," I said. "And she'll reach out when she's ready." They pressed for more, but I didn't budge. The next morning, Claire made a decision. She packed her things, thanked us both quietly, and said she was going to confront Mom and Dad to tell them the truth about Ethan, the forged loans, about everything. "Are you sure?" I asked. She nodded. "I've hidden behind lies long enough. I can't rebuild anything if I'm still pretending the house didn't burn down." She left that afternoon, and for the first time in my life, I felt proud of her. Weeks passed, and eventually the family group chat resumed. My mother sent a cautious message, saying she and my father had finally accepted the truth, that they were heartbroken but healing. Claire had moved back in temporarily and was helping them navigate the legal mess. She was going back to school, getting certified in agricultural business of all things. "I want to build something real," she wrote to me privately, "like you and Noah. It's not too late. We still weren't best friends, too much history, too many wounds, but a bridge was forming, fragile yet real." One day, Noah and I stood by the barn, watching the sun dip below the hills, casting everything in gold. "You think she'll be okay?" he asked. I took a deep breath. "I think for the first time in a long time, we all might be." He wrapped his arm around me. Funny how the humble farmer ended up saving the family. I laughed softly. No, the farmer didn't save anyone. He just waited for everyone to realize what was already worth saving. And as we stood there, the wind brushing through the wheat, I felt something I hadn't felt in years: closure. Real, honest closure, the kind that comes not from revenge, but from watching those who once ridiculed you finally open their eyes to the truth and choosing, in that moment, not bitterness but peace.